Hey y'all, welcome to That Tennessee Feeling. How is everybody? It's been a good month. It's been summer, so it's hot. Of course it's hot. It's Tennessee and humidity and bugs. But you know what? It's just all part of what makes Tennessee, Tennessee. Thanks for coming back. Hopefully people are still listening. I did see that there's a couple more reviews on Apple and Spotify, so thank you guys. Y'all are simply amazing. I love it. Also, don't forget that there is That Tennessee Feeling group and page on Facebook as well as on Instagram. And just tag me in things. I'd love to see the part of Tennessee you're in or what you're doing or what part you like or where you like to eat. Just anything that makes Tennessee, Tennessee. Just hashtag it, That TN Feeling, and I'll see it and I can share it and, we can talk about things. And I love meeting you guys and enjoying to get to know other people who are either fellow Tennesseans or just absolutely love the state. All right, guys, today we're going to talk about a part of Tennessee, or what Tennessee is a part of. We're going to talk about Appalachia. And I know Appalachia is one of those weird topics. Technically, Appalachia, by definition, is a cultural region located in the central and southern sections of the Appalachian Mountains of the East U.S. And it stretches from the Catskill Mountains in the part of New York State, through Pennsylvania, through Tennessee, through Georgia. I mean, so far you're hitting the Blue Ridge Mountains, the Smoky Mountains, and it even goes down into Alabama. And the area is home to about 26 million people, so it's a pretty good area. And it's a distinctive region. I mean, it's also one of those regions that has a lot of myth and superstitions and just ways of life and behaviors. And it's almost kind of become its own myth, like people do live there and things do happen, but due to some interesting, we'll say journalism, it's been given kind of a reputation. I mean, now there are aspects of it that are true. I mean, do people moonshine? Yeah, absolutely. There's moonshine in there. And I don't mean the moonshine like if you go to Gatlinburg and you try Old Smoky. But by the way, if you're in Gatlinburg and you want a moonshine tasting, I recommend Sugarlands. It's so much better and so much more fun. It's less touristy. It's just, I don't know, I liked it better. I thought the tastes were better. It tastes like less straight sugar. All right, enough plugging Sugarlands. But you also get, people like the clans feuding, like the Hatfields and the McCoys, and people being uneducated and acting violent. And these stereotypes, I mean, are there people who live in Appalachia that act like that? Absolutely. But there's people that act like that everywhere. But, you still get the stereotypes about Appalachian mountain people being ignorant and stuck in their ways and even sometimes racist, and that's just not true. Now, the other thing about Appalachia is that it's associated with poverty. This might still be kind of true in certain parts, because Appalachia has usually been identified as either mining or logging. And yeah, those are both very true because the mountains and the areas that they're in, both of those are huge industries in that area. And yeah, there's still some parts of it that are a little bit poor. But, people tried to combat this. In the 1930s, there was the New Deal initiative, which came in with the TVA. And I know a lot of people who worked for the TVA, and a lot of people retired from the TVA and did very well. So it's not always that it's a lot of stereotypes, and they're not all true, obviously. But it's still an interesting region. And so let's talk about what specifically makes up the region. We talked about kind of the states, but let's really talk about it. So technically, it's in 13 states. It's all of West Virginia, 14 counties in New York, 52 counties in Pennsylvania, 32 in Ohio, only 3 in Maryland, 54 in Kentucky, 25 counties and 8 cities in Virginia, 29 counties in North Carolina, 52 in Tennessee, 6 in South Carolina, 37 in Georgia, 37 in Alabama, and 24 in Mississippi. So when I tell you this stretches a long ways, I mean it stretches a long ways. And of course, it is really a distinctive cultural region. I'll be the first one to tell you that people talk different and say things different. And, you know, it's its own area. Now, how did it get its name? Well, that's kind of an interesting thing. And in order to explore that, we have to go way back. We have to go to the 1520s. So, while exploring inland in the northern coast of Florida in 1528, members of the Narvaez expedition, including Alvar Nunez Cabeza de Vaca, dear Lord, they have a lot of names, found a village of indigenous people near what is present-day Tallahassee, Florida. And their names were translated into Appalachian. And then it was translated by the Spanish into Appalachia, which then began to be the name for the tribe and the region that spread inland and north. So Panfilo de Narvaez's expedition actually first encountered the Appalachia Territory in 1528 and then applied to the name to this entire region, even though none of Appalachia actually sits in Florida. But the Spanish, especially in the De Soto expedition in 1540, started to move north, and they started to find the mountains. And then they began to name the tribe and the mountains themselves, and Appalachian just kind of took on. And so the first name for the mountain range, an Appalachian, was actually in 1565, and it was a map made by Jacques Le Monet de Morges. That's either really bad Spanish or bad French, but either way, somebody in 1565 named this area, specifically a mountain range, in the southeastern region of North America, Appalachian. And it didn't really catch on. I mean, that's just like the Spanish version, but it really kind of caught on in the late 1800s. And it was really more popular with the name Allegheny Mountains, and it just kind of slowly evolved. Especially in southern U.S. dialects, the mountains were called Appalachian, and the cultural reason for Appalachia is pronounced Appalachia. There's a third syllable, like the la in latch. So it's, I hate to say this, but if you're not from the area, you probably don't know how to pronounce it, or you've heard major mispronunciations of it. And it really depends on what part you live in as to what they call it. The northern part call it a little bit different. The southern parts call it something else. And of course, Tennessee does sit in that more southern part. But it's Appalachian. And the Appalachian Trail actually is a huge trail that goes all the way over the mountains. And of course, being that it's an old mountain range, we know that we in Tennessee were not the first to settle it. The Native Americans have been there for, they say 16,000 years. I mean, we're just going to say a long time. And of course, the earliest part was discovered in the Appalachian part of Pennsylvania. And then a lot of archaeological sites popped up near West Virginia, and then even in the Ice House Bottom site in Tennessee. Now you're like, what is the Ice House Bottom site in Tennessee? Well, I'm going to tell you. It was actually a prehistoric Native American site in Monroe County, located on the Little Tennessee River. Native Americans were using the site as a semi-permanent hunting camp as early as 7500 BC, making it possibly one of the oldest known habitation areas in what is now the state of Tennessee. And of course, they found artifacts, and evidence shows a huge trade network, so they traded all through it. Of course, that network went through Georgia, North Carolina, and Ohio. And of course, it was later known to be Cherokee. And unfortunately, thanks to progress, you can't visit the Ice House Bottom site anymore because it has been submerged by Tellico Lake, thanks to the creation of the Tellico Dam. Excavations were conducted at the site in the early 1970s prior to the dam construction in anticipation of it being flooded by the lake, and of course it was. And of course, thanks to the TVA and part of that New Deal era and trying to combat poverty in Appalachia, they since covered probably one of the great historic sites to learn about that part of the United States. If you are wondering, it is in Monroe County. If it is in Von Orr, yes, I'm saying that right. Please don't come at me. It is literally called Von Orr. So, which, by the way, that's really annoying when they start covering archaeological sites for dams. I feel that is just so stupid. You lost a ton of history. But the Ice House Bottom is an archaeological site of ancient human occupation that was located near the Little Tennessee River, which became the Tellico Lake. It was about 21 miles above the river, near the Tennessee River. So, I mean, these people lived on the water. They had a huge network. They probably used the river to move around, to be able to trade. And it was even near Fort Loudon, which is also near Von Orr. And it was located near the Tellico Blockhouse, which is a federal trading post, in 1794. So they're thinking that these people, traded with the fort and the blockhouse and really set up a huge area that they were able to cover. And of course, like I said, that they did find a lot of artifacts from the excavations. They found a lot of clay hearths, which meant that there was fires and cooking. And of course, the hearth still displayed impressions made by netting or basket resting on the clay while it was moist. So it had some really cool imprints to show how they lived, which I think that's really cool. But yeah, so one of the earliest parts were actually found in Tennessee, which I think is really cool to talk about Appalachia. And I mean, of course, as people continue to go through the sites and to settle in the area, they met the different tribes and the Native Americans, and people started to kind of create their own different ways and to learn about it. I mean, really, the Appalachian was really more of a new frontier. Because when they came and settled where they settled for, their revolution, they met the mountain range. And really, Appalachia really is just that is what it is. It's a mountain range, and it's an area around the mountain range. And so it was kind of like a new frontier, and they had to be rugged, and they had to be self-sufficient. And that's really kind of where these people who have lived there and grown up kind of came out of. Because if you've lived in the area, you will meet some of the most self-sufficient people you've ever met. I know I do, living in East Tennessee. There are people who have just insane amount of knowledge that you would never gain from a book, but you gain from either being handed down by folk, like stories or traditions or things that, people have kind of forgotten about. And that's one really cool aspect of Appalachia, is that these people cling to these things. They cling to their family histories. They cling to, you got a bug bite. Oh, don't put that on it. Go boil a couple of these leaves and it'll cure it in 5 seconds. Those things. And those things are really cool about Appalachia, is that they have these knowledges that have just been passed down. And of course, the people who settled Appalachia really were kind of pioneers. And of course, most people who think of something like Daniel Boone or David Crockett and that coonskin cap and buckskin clothing and sporting a rifle over their shoulder with a powder horn. Thank you, Tennessee Volunteers, for your old logo. And that's really what people think of. They think of that ruggedness, who was surveying the land, who was a hunter, who lived off the land, and who built these houses from logs that they found and cut down trees and things like that, and survived the Native American lands. And of course, one of those, there's a bunch of those sites all through up in that part of the mountain. I mean, one of the sites that I think of is there's a house in Greene County, Tennessee. So super East Tennessee. And it was built in like the 1780s, I want to say. And it was during the Cherokee American War. So it was when they were fighting over the land, and it was near the river. But you can see that it's this beautifully built log cabin, but it's got like slots for like guns and things and protection and things that you would never think to build into a house these days. And of course, the people through Appalachia have been known to be, we'll say, rowdy. Some of them refused to pay taxes on whiskey when the American government was founded. And so there was a whiskey rebellion, which was a violent tax protest in the U.S. from 1791 to 1794. And, that was really one of the first taxes that was founded, especially on beer. And, people didn't want to pay that. People have been living in the mountains. They had just fought this war, and they weren't going to pay it. And I can't really say I blame them, but we pay it today, so it is what it is. Appalachia also survived the Civil War. And of course, Appalachia was kind of divided between the North and the South as to who fought for what. So, I mean, the area's seen tons of history. And the people who've lived there have survived a lot of things. And, of course, there was some economic booms for the area. So they're not, the poverty thing did not stick. I mean, they did do mining, especially with coal. There was logging, which was big in like the 1800s. And so the area's stereotypes, it's kind of annoying. It's kind of annoying to live there, and you get people who ask. I have literally had people ask me, "Do you wear shoes?" What are shoes? No, I'm kidding. I did tell them that. I did ask them that. But no, yes. Maybe we buy our stuff from the Walmart and the Dollar General, but it's still shoes, and it's still clothing. Ain't nobody running around in burlap sack. We don't do that. But, of course, the stereotypes still stand, especially thanks to the moonshiners, who during the Prohibition period kept some people happy and some people not so happy. And of course, the Civil War didn't help, adding to a lot of that. I kind of have embraced it as a Southerner, that you're just going to people are going to automatically assume you're stupid, especially if you have my accent and you live in this part of the country. Of course, I do have to talk about the feuds. Were there feuds? Yes, there were violent feuds, especially in the mountain areas. Clans against clans for decades. Hatfields and the McCoys. And this is just... I hate to say this, but this is just one of those things that you had to let happen. People are going to fight over land till the world ends, and this is just kind of what happened. And somebody shot somebody's brother, and it led from the Civil War, and things just kept going. But now the Appalachian today is a little bit better than you think it is. Of course, one of the cool parts of being in Appalachia is that we have Oak Ridge National Laboratory near Knoxville. That's obviously smart people. And then you have some really big cities that actually fall into Appalachia, like Asheville, North Carolina, Chattanooga, Cleveland, Tennessee, not Ohio. You get Erie, Pennsylvania. You have Muscle Shoals, Alabama, Huntsville, Alabama, Johnson City, Tennessee, Knoxville, Bristol, Kingsport, Morristown. And all these are well-to-do, decent cities who have a good amount of population, and, times change. And I know that is one of those superstitions, is that Appalachian people don't change, and they're stuck in their ways. And some things, we are stuck in our ways. I'll tell you right now. But not everybody. But the other thing that Appalachia really combats is their superstitions. That is part of our culture. And we do have some very interesting superstitions. And we do have some really interesting, paranormal stories. The Bell Witch falls into Appalachia, with her haunting of the family in the cave. Bigfoot. The Bigfoot sightings are numerous all up and down that mountain range. You get the Mothman, believe it or not. And then you get the brown mountain lights, which I did not know about these until I was reading it. And I was so confused at first. But it's actually really, really interesting. And of course, they happened kind of it's in North Carolina. So it's like the Asheville, Boone area. The mountains are beautiful, right? And this really happened in the 20th century. And it's kind of as people gained electricity, but they would report seeing colorful lights, known for their inconsistency, just kind of light up randomly all overnight, especially after a rainfall. So, of course, people have their theories on what it was, but it's still a really cool Appalachian superstition. But... And the one I don't get, and this may just be me, is the Moon-Eyed people. If you've ever heard of the Moon-Eyed people, they think that there's a whole race of these people living in the Appalachian Range. They're said to be short, stout, white-skinned, beard faces, and massive blue eyes. And they only come out at night. But they say that the Moon-Eyed people even came from Native American tribes. They would talk about them. I don't know. I don't know about that one. I know that I would never want to run into one of them if they do exist, but I don't know. And then, of course, the Mothman. The Mothman has been seen a couple times. He's up more north. But I don't know. I think I'm more inclined to believe in the Mothman than the Moon-Eyed people. And then, of course, there's the Wampus cat, the Cherokee death cat. It's a large cat, kind of like a mountain lion, but much bigger. And the legend goes that the Cherokee female was cursed by tribal elders for witnessing a sacred pre-hunt ceremony. She hid under the pelt of a large cat and then got turned into a half woman, half beast, left to wander throughout the mountains. She tends to usually be in North Carolina. She has been known to be in Virginia and parts of Tennessee. Yeah, I don't know about that one. Now, Appalachian superstitions. And I've heard these my entire life growing up. Living in East Tennessee, people were not afraid to tell you these things. I mean, if you did one, people were going to let you know it. They were going to tell you, you can't do that, or why, or they would just, you just didn't do it. And so I'm going to let you in on a couple of these. If someone opens a knife and hands it to you, you hand it back. They have to close it. You never close a knife you didn't open. And I believe that to this day. Funny enough, this is one that I actually believe in. It's 7 years bad luck, supposedly, but I don't care. I've just grown up. If you didn't open it, you don't close it. So that's just, that's one I actually do believe in. Keep a penny in your washer. I don't know about that one. Always go out the same door you came in. I've heard that one. Eat black-eyed peas or collard greens with hog jaw on New Year's Day to give you good luck and wealth. Don't wash your clothes on New Year's Day or you'll wash out a family member or all your new luck. I've heard of that one too. Don't sleep on New Year's Day. Don't do any canning or gardening on your period. I don't know. I don't know where that one comes from. I've heard that one all my life. I don't get it. Don't plant crops under a full moon. I've heard that one. Don't walk under a ladder or you'll find yourself under one. Don't turn around, just back out. So, you've always heard don't walk under a ladder. It's bad luck. That's a good superstition. Don't let anybody sweep under your feet. I've heard that. It's either it's going to sweep away whatever is coming to you or it's going to stunt your growth. I've just, somebody sweeping, just stand where you are, move away. I've heard of both. Never give someone a set of knives as a gift. If you give them to newlyweds, it will cut their love. I've heard that. We put a knife set on I was talking to, I think it was my mom. We were going to put a knife set on our registry when we were getting married. And she's like, you can't do that. And I'm like, why? And she goes, you can't give somebody knives. You have to buy them yourself. Okay. If a black cat crosses your path, turn and go a different way. I don't believe that one. I don't believe black cats are bad luck. So to me, I'm probably going to more like, pss, pss, come here and try and pet it. That one's not mine. Never repay salt that you've borrowed. If a bad storm is coming, put a 2-edged axe in a stump facing the storm to ensure that it cuts the storm and goes around you. If you spill salt, throw a pinch over your left shoulder so you won't have bad luck. I've heard that one. Also, if you spill salt, throw a pinch over your left shoulder and it'll blind the devil. If you drop a fork, a woman's coming to visit. If you drop a knife, a man's coming to visit. I don't know. Don't cut your baby's hair before their first birthday. I don't know that one either. Run a chicken over your baby to keep it from getting chicken pox. Now, that is, I don't know, that's hilarious. I mean, when I grew up and you had chicken pox, you had a chicken pox party so everybody else could get it. I don't know. Don't let a pregnant woman see a dead person or the baby will have a birthmark. I've heard that one before. If cows are lying down or leaves are upside down, it's going to rain. I've definitely heard that. If you see the animals start to eat and then start to converge in one area, bad weather's coming. Hang a horseshoe upside down to keep good luck from running out. Wear a buckeye in your bra to ward off rheumatism. I've heard that one. Hold your breath when you pass a cemetery or you'll be the next to die. I've also heard hold your breath when you pass a cemetery so you don't inhale a spirit. If you see a white horse, you'll have good luck. Hold your feet up when crossing the railroad track or you'll lose your boyfriend. I don't even know. If you're walking with someone and you both have to go to the same side of the post. So and my husband believes in this one. Don't split a post. If you're walking and you walk to the left of the post, you got to walk to the left of the post too. It'll split you in half. I don't know It's an old superstition. I've heard it my entire life. My husband definitely believes in that one. Don't wash clothes on a Sunday. I've heard this. My grandma was a big believer in this. I don't know if it's a superstition or she was just so religious that you didn't do chores on a Sunday. But I've heard this my entire life. Open the window when someone dies and covers the mirror so that their soul doesn't get trapped. Hang a mirror by the door to protect against evil. They say it's because the devil's so vain that he stares at himself all night until the morning comes, and then he has to leave. Never leave a rocking chair rocking or you will invite spirits. I've heard of that one. Another one that I think I've heard is put a broom next to your door so that the haint has to count all the straws until she can come in, and she gets so busy counting them that then she has to leave because it's morning. Paint your door haint blue so things can't come in. If your broom falls, it's bad fortune for no reason. A chin dimple is a sign of bad character because dimples are made by the devil's shoe. I'm sorry for all of you who have chin dimples. Deaths come in threes. I have heard this my entire life, and I actually believe this one. I'm not even gonna argue that one. Let's see. Foot itching is a sign that you're going to embark on a long journey. Heard of that. Let's see. A hard to light candle is a sign of coming rain because there's too much moisture in the air. If a man wipes his hands on a girl's apron, he will fall in love with her. I think that's cute. That's an old one. If dough cracks while being shaped, a funeral is to come. I've heard that one before. Let's see. Don't step on a grave. Now, I've heard that one, and my mom was a big believer in that one, too. If we would go... Because we would go to cemeteries, and we would go see if we could find the oldest grave. Because, I mean, in Tennessee, you can find all the way to the Revolutionary War in certain places. And we would have to walk. She'd tell us how to walk so we didn't step on the graves because it was bad luck. Let's see. Knock on wood to continue good fortune. Let's see. I'm trying to see ones that I've seen or haven't seen. Most of these I've seen before. Speaking a dead person's name in your dream is an omen. I don't believe that one. Spit on a new baby to bring it good luck. I am not spitting on a child. That's just rude. Stepping on an ant's nest will cause rain. I've heard that one. Stop the clocks as soon as someone dies to prevent another death. I've heard that. I still don't understand the women should not do any canning or gardening on their period. I don't get it. Sorry. But there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of everyday Appalachian superstitions, and some of these you find yourself doing without even thinking about it, you know? I don't know. The one that I've always believed in and I will do is if you're drinking like alcohol or spirits, pour a little on the ground to satisfy the spirit's past. So pour some out for the ghost. I've heard of that one. I will usually do that one. But I mean, Appalachia's full of a lot of superstitions, and a lot of these I find myself doing even just growing up in Appalachia, because you've heard them your whole entire life. And you know, it is just a way of life. And I can honestly say that I've lived a couple different places, and Appalachia is still one of my favorite places to call home. The people are nice. The food is amazing. The superstitions get you through the day. You'll find some really interesting characters that can tell you more than any history book ever could. So if you ever want to learn a lot or find a fun, friendly place to live, come visit us in Appalachia. Come to East Tennessee. Actually, a lot of Tennessee is actually in Appalachia, kind of East Tennessee over towards Middle. But definitely come visit us. I can recommend the Mountain People. That's where I'm, from right now. And I can definitely say that living in Nashville, you didn't hear all this stuff. But living in the East Tennessee mountains, it's definitely a lot more fun. It's a lot more friendly. The people are a lot more down to earth. And so the next time you hear of Appalachia, don't think of some stereotype hillbilly walking down the road with a piece of wheat in his mouth with no shoes on. If he's doing that, he's probably doing that by choice. I guarantee it. Well, thank you for listening today, guys. I hope you've enjoyed learning a little bit about Appalachia and their superstitions. They're paranormal. I will probably go into depth further on a lot of them, especially the Bow Witch Cave. I've been there, and that is just a creepy place. So, thanks for listening, guys. I hope y'all have a great week. Stay hydrated. It is hot out there. And as always, stay country.